What's up, guys, and welcome back to my ADHD-fueled descent into madness. Today's project that we're going to half-ass our way through is my 81 or 82 Chevy C10 short bed that I brought home from Georgia, actually. I was on a job down there and thought, hey, I should pick up a sweet southern truck and bring it home. That'd be pretty cool. So I found probably the worst truck in all of Georgia, bought it as a roller, hauled it home, put it in my shed for 2 years, and then a while back I dropped an RV drivetrain into it, 350 Turbo 400. It's not really hooked up at all. It's got the wires ran to the distributor, so I've got it to fire off a gas down the cart, but it's not hooked to the fuel tank. It doesn't have a radiator, power steering, just all the plumbing basically needs to be done. It also needs an exhaust system. It doesn't even have manifolds or headers on it right now, but it runs. Oh. Save the camera thanks to the damn wind. And we're just going to keep it rolling because I've done 4 takes already thanks to that. So we're just going to keep going with it. But anyways, yeah, in order to make this drive, it's going to need a drive shaft. And since they never put a Turbo 400 in these trucks, I'm going to need to shorten the factory drive shaft and also put a different yoke on the end of it. But also, I would like to lower this truck because you can't do hot rod shit when you're a mile in the air. So that'll also make the drive shaft shorter. So we need to lower it before measuring for the drive shaft so we get an accurate length. And in order to do that, since we're going so low, we're doing a 6/8 drop, so 6 inches in the front, 8 inches in the rear, so it's going to sit level and about that high off the ground. But yeah, we need to notch out the frame over the axle so that it'll have enough clearance because they're going to be so close together. But yeah, to do that, first we need to take this bed off, and that way we can get access to the top frame flange, and that'll help us put that C-notch kit in. So that's what we're going to get started on. Alright, well, we're rolling under the truck here, and removing this bed should be pretty easy because it's supposed to just be 4 bolts, like this corner here, and then 2 at the front, and then the wires, which somebody already pre-cut for us, so that's easy. And also nicely, this bolt's broke off, and this one's missing, so that saves us some time. So we should just have 2 bolts at the front, and then all these little tiny bolts at the back here that are going to just snap off, hopefully, because it'll be easier than trying to unbolt them. Yeah, it's going to be easier than I thought, because apparently I already worked on this truck before. I just forgot, I guess. Alright, so we got that all unbolted, and we got a new camera angle. I got like a police body camera set up so I can use both my hands. Yeah, it only had 2 bolts in it, and I ended up just cutting those back mounts, and then I'll deal with all the bolts once it's off the frame and I can actually get to things. And yeah, I think this way you'll be able to actually see what I'm doing when I'm running the levers on the crane, and I'll have both hands free to avoid getting crushed. So I think this should really work out pretty good. Just got to figure out how to rig it, get the truck fired up. We're just going to lift the box off, set it on top of there, and then I'm going to spin the truck around and I'm going to set it over there. So, should be pretty simple. Alright, we got it rigged up. Just ran a couple of straps corner to corner, so there's an X. We're going to hook them right in the center of the X, and then lift it up and over. Should go pretty good with 2 of us here. And hopefully you'll be able to see the levers, and you'll see this. I don't know really what the camera angle looks like, but I'll do my best. Okay, so we gotta go up with the main boom. I don't know if you can hear this standing next to the exhaust. Then we go out with the auxiliary there. Swing it around. kind of straight out, I think. Alright, it's right over the middle of that X. I can come down a bit. I'll hook it the other way, front to back. Alright, that's going to stretch pretty significantly. Can you come down more?
You're recording, right?
Yep.
There. I wish we would have blacked the back of the cab with something, like a piece of plywood or something.
Well, it's going to come, we'll just swing it back, so. Alright, we're hooked up. Hopefully still in frame. See what happens. What? Alright. We might need a pry bar. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to pry it off the frame. I think it's just kind of bound up on the bolt that's still in there. But we're not bending anything yet. Doing pretty good. Not ideal, but there's not really lift points, so this is the best I came up with. Get the, yeah, just the big one. 5-foot pry bar. Okay. And we're free. Just a little extra tweak is all it needed. That's all it took. The bolt's just seized in the hole. Alright, we'll come up. It's a little off balance, but it's moving good. Maybe pry up on the back a bit and see. Maybe not. Yep. Just caught a little bit there too, so we're free of the truck. I don't think there's any wires hooked to it. I gotta go up a bit and I can swing it. Alright. Am I gonna clear that tire? Go up one more. Swing it. Oh, fuel filler neck. I forgot to disconnect the fuel filler. Alright, we're gonna fix that, then be right back. Alright, disconnected the fuel filler neck. The clamps weren't even tight, so I just popped them right off. And I cut the one line. So, body camera wasn't really working out either. I kind of hated it. So, tripod it is for the rest of it. Gotta need outriggers! Set it sideways. Yeah, good point. All right, so we got the old C10 in the garage, and I can kind of show you why it was necessary to take the bed off and what's going on here. So, yeah, you got your bump stops here, and the axle, when the frame goes down, that keeps the axle from doing bad things, apparently, whatever. But what we're going to end up doing is moving these springs from above the axle to under the axle and just slamming this biatch. And when you do that, then the axle to frame gets real tight. So we need to put a big old notch in the frame like that. And these plates go on to reinforce the section that gets cut out. They get bolted in, and yeah, they kind of wrap around the top of the frame. So you got bolts through the top of the frame, and then like a bunch of bolts through the side of the frame. And yeah, so we got to be able to get holes drilled in there, and in there, and in there, and then cut all that out. There's instructions in one of those boxes. Shouldn't be too difficult. People must do it pretty regularly. I mean, they make a whole kit on how to do it. So, yeah, we're just they say in the instructions, you just kind of hold it up there, figure out where it needs to sit. This angle kind of matches this angle, and then you just trace it out where the center of this is kind of in the center of your bump stop, so basically in line with this hole. And it shouldn't be too bad. So we'll get to work, I guess. Small change of plans, actually. It turns out if you read the instructions, which is a wild thing to do before doing major frame modifications. I mean, who would do something like that? They actually say you're supposed to do the flip kit first. So I guess we're doing the leaf springs instead of the C-notches right now. They say you can do that so that you get the axle location centered right, so it actually hits the notch, and you don't end up off to one end or the other and still hit your frame. So I guess we're taking off crusty old U-bolts, but maybe being Georgia U-bolts, they won't be too bad. I know Minnesota U-bolts are essentially consumable. They're a one-time use. Like, you're never going to reuse a U-bolt after it's been on a Minnesota rig for more than about 6 hours. All right, here goes nothing. Usually I don't even attempt the impact taking off U-bolts. Usually I just torch right through the side of them, but I've never had ones that came up from the bottom. Usually they go down from the top. Then all the salt and sand just sits on top of them and really rusts them. But here goes nothing. First time for everything. Wow. I should buy every truck from Georgia. I've never done that before. It didn't even... Oh, it was in auto torque mode. It wasn't even in full chooch, and it didn't even struggle. Let's do another one. That's awesome. Wow. I am amazed and in love. Those are damn near reusable. Wow. I mean, they probably are. Oh my gosh, this is like uncharted territory. I didn't know that you could take off the nuts on a U-bolt. They're supposed to just be seized on there. That should be one piece of metal by now. This may be the ugliest Southern truck to ever exist, but I guess it is still a Southern truck. I didn't even need to use a hammer. What is this witchcraft and trickery? It should take at least an 8-pound hammer to remove that. That's wild. All right, well, probably no reason to even film the other side if this went that easily. That's neat. Neat idea. Moving right along, I mean, everything is just coming right apart, which is completely amazing for somebody like me who's used to working on trucks like that crane you've seen and that crusty old crew cab, where every single bolt requires a torch, and it's not even worth even trying to unbolt them. You just cut them to start with, and you just get new ones because it's easier. So, yeah, it's kind of cool to be able to reuse these bolts. I mean, that's This one's brand new. Just a little surface rust, so saves me a trip to the store at least. I'm not going to complain about that. We'll just keep plugging right along. Might time lapse it. I don't know. All right, we have things kind of loosely, roughly assembled here. Basically, the little saddle goes lined up on the axle spring pin, and then it just butts up to the bottom of the original spring plate. U-bolts come from the top. Plate goes up from the bottom. Longer shackles, and exactly what I was worried about did happen, where we ran into the bottom of the spring hanger, but luckily, since everything's all still loose, that should be an easy fix. We should be able to, that's a tripod deal. I think we got enough room we can flex it out and around. And we'll try that right now. We'll just do it live. Okay, put just a little pressure on that. Oh yeah. Probably not the recommended way of doing it, but I've never done anything the recommended way. And I probably should be doing both of these at the same time so we're not twisting this up and causing issues for next time, but, or not even next time, for the other side. Can't even talk. I don't know why you guys even watch this stuff. But yeah, that's kind of about ride height. Well, it's not ride height because there's no weight on it, but it's going to get real close to that bracket. I mean, it's pretty much 3 fingers, so yeah, a couple inches away from the bump stop right now. And it's got more to go before this shackle goes into place, so we're going low with this one. But I'm going to wait to do all that until I have the other one, and then I can raise the axle evenly, I think. So, yeah, we'll get back to work and let you listen to the great royalty-free music while I time-lapse the other side again. All right, things are kind of put together, sitting how they should be. I got the jacks under the springs, holding the weight up. So this is how it's going to sit on the suspension, which that bed's pretty heavy, so it's going to sit even lower. But yeah, we're off the jack stands, and we are, I believe the kids call it dirt nasty low. And that's why we need to C-notch it, because probably the weight of the bed will be enough to set that bump stop right on the axle. And then you put any weight on it and you're just bottoming out at all times, which is kind of hard on the equipment. Turns your tires into the suspension, which not recommended. Really, I mean, if I wasn't going to do any actual driving with this, you'd probably just cut these mounts out and get the, get that 1.5 or 2 inches back and be fine. But I got the big fancy kit with the C-notch, so we're going to C-notch it. All right, well, after I shut the camera off last night, I did a little bit more work out here, and we got those old bump stop mounts off, and then we kind of started measuring and marking because it's time for the notch to go in. And I was kind of reading the instructions, and I don't really like what they say to do, which is they tell you to just kind of hold this they tell you just hold the bracket up against the frame and just trace out around it, but obviously it's kind of a weird shape, and you gotta be careful making sure you get it square and all that. So instead of trying to guess based off of something like that, I decided to use my best engineering skills, and we did some CAD work, some cardboard aided drafting. And now this sits right in there. That's exactly the shape we need, and I think I'm gonna rip it if I take it out one-handed. It's kind of tight, but we'll be able, kind of tight's better than kind of loose. We'll be able to clear, well, still have to do some metal work and clearance that out probably for the flap wheel to make it fit, but I like this a lot better because this will actually sit flat to the frame, and it has the outer measurement. And then since this is a factory edge here, we can take a square it right up to the top of the frame rail and not have to worry about the radius here messing with us. So this, I think, should be a lot more exact. We'll get it taped up and then marked, and then we'll cut it. See how it goes. I marked both center lines, just kind of eyeballed it. That one's a little far forward, but I think this one's pretty good, so we'll just correct that one when we get to that side. But yeah, here goes nothing. Alright, so we got the cut done. Now we're just kind of grinding and fitting all this into place, and ran into a little problem I didn't even think of, and you guys might not either. So my template obviously traced around the metal because that's what needs to fit, but trying to put it in, I got like, 1/8 inch of wobble or gap that it doesn't fit. The welds stick out a bit, so now we got a clearance on both sides. You gotta take this back and this back, both about 1/8 of an inch, so that weld has room to sit in there so that the plate fits flat on the frame and it can get bolted up. So yeah, I guess just keep that in mind when you're kind of making this. But other than that, the fitting's going pretty good. Killing my batteries, but I think I mostly killed them due to having an unheated garage where I keep them. So one of these days I'll get some new ones, but until then we'll just keep rotating them through the charger. But yeah, that's where we're at. We'll come back when it's time to start drilling holes, I think. Alright, we got all our holes drilled and got our bolts kind of started. These frame rails can be a real bitch to drill, or at least especially to drill a 1/2 inch hole through. But I'll tell you one thing, these carbide reamers are a lifesaver. Focus, you piece of shit. God damn it. Come on. There we go. Yeah, they make these for big trucks. Like, oh, god damn it. And yeah, they work awesome because you just drill a little 1/4 inch pilot hole, and it's not too hard to get a 1/4 inch hole through a frame rail. Try and do one of these though. God damn it. Really just struggles. That's a lot to try and cut out all at once. So yeah, you drill a little pilot hole, and then the nice thing about these two is they're tapered, so you don't even have to be real exact because it'll center itself as it goes down. just kind of work its way towards center since they cut on the side. So yeah, we'll buzz all these bolts in and then do the other side. Probably won't even film that because it's exactly the same as this side, just over there. So we'll come back once this is all put together, and then we can get started on the front. That's going to be more of a task since it's spindles and springs, which means all new ball joints, and we're going to have to do an alignment because of the tie rods, and there's a lot of fuckery going on in the front. I decided to start with the easy part, and kind of regretting it because I'm going to wish I could come back to this once I get into that. All right, well, I thought I was done filming the back because I thought it was going to be easy, but just discovered something that might be helpful to some of you. Check the height of your bolts before you put a ratchet wrench on there. This is only a one-way ratchet wrench. You got to flip it over to spin the direction. So that's stuck. This is tight. So I'm in the middle of hacksawing the end of the bolt off so I can get the wrench out. And I take off these top 3 bolts to even make room for the saw. So yeah, maybe put the bump stops into the notch before you put the notch into the frame. That might be helpful. Great. Okay, so we got the C-notch installed on the other side here, and one more little tech tip that I didn't realize until I was nearly done. But, when you're doing these plates and getting them all lined up, apparently there's actually a left and a right. I just got extremely lucky because I had that one fully bolted in, and I had all of the holes drilled on this one, and I looked at it and I realized, oh, that's weird. So this plate is a passenger side plate, and it's longer here than the driver's side plate, which is considerably narrower, and the 2 bolts basically touch each other. You can't really mess it up though because of the where the slant in the frame is. It's clearanced for the shock, so you'll know right away if you got it backwards. On this side at least. That side you would think it's just sitting back a bit, but yeah, I guess that's one more thing to watch out for if you're doing one of these on your own is there is a left and a right plate. And then I did remember to use the open end of the wrench on the bump stop on this side, and I was even able to multi-purpose it by putting this brake line clamp right through that bolt, so now my brake line is still clamped in place. But yeah, looking pretty good. Pretty well centered, and then we'll get started on the front. Wow, that was bad. We'll get started on the front. All right, before we get this jacked up, I'm going to do a step I forgot to do in the back, and that's measure these wheel wells to see how low we're actually going to make it. So while it's still monster trucking up here, we're going to check it. Or else you can't really measure wheel wells when you don't have wheel wells. So we'll measure both right here with the center. So we are 33.5 on the driver's side front. And we are, if I can hold the tape, 33.5 on the passenger side front. Which actually sits level, that's good. So, yeah. We'll get this up in the air and blow these wheels off it. And then we'll get started on the fun part. Drop spindles and springs. Well, we got it up in the air and we got the wheels off. And I kind of accidentally did something really cool. Or sort of cool, kind of mostly dangerous, but I set the jack stands right at the natural center of gravity of the truck. So I can do this now. I'm the world's strongest man squatting a truck. I should probably move those, but I'm not going to. It's fine. It's still mostly heavy back here. I might just throw the tires back here for like an extra few pounds of weight. Wonder if I can do it one-handed. Nope. Two-hand approved though. That's good. Alright, so now that all the screwing around is over with, this is why the front is going to be such a pain in the ass. Because I have to take off the everything. Because what we're replacing is the spindle, which is what the everything is attached to. So caliper has to come off. The rotor has to come off, but it's like a unit bearing, so the bearing is actually part of the rotor. So we gotta knock this cover off, take the nut off of there. The wheel bearings come with that. Then we gotta take off the upper and the lower ball joint and the tie rod end. And then the spindle will come out, and then we get to put it all back in place and realign the whole truck. So that's a lot of work. But we don't do it because it's easy. We do it because we want to look cool going down the road. Alright, so that actually went pretty smooth. I think I've said it a couple times already, but I am really enjoying working on these Southern trucks. Everything kind of just came right out. Didn't have, like, if this was a truck from around here, that would be hours and hours and hours with a torch. But you just saw it. It was 26 seconds worth of time lapse. That was like maybe 5 minutes of real life time. And now it's time to pull the ball joint and the spring out. And easy way to do that so you don't die, because there's a lot of tension on that spring, even with it drooped like this. You just put the floor jack under it and you lift up a bit to put some tension on it. You know, once there's tension holding that together, it can't go springing apart. And then it's just those 5 bolts up at the top there, and we should be able to swing that out, and then we can get the lower ball joint. Alright, so we got these 4 bolts out, and I wasn't thinking, but that's actually out of order. That's how you take the ball joint out of the control arm. There's a big nut in behind here where you're not going to be able to see. That's what comes apart to separate the spindle from the ball joint. And luckily, because of the floor jack, we should be fine to remove that without any major carnage. And even if there is major carnage, isn't that what you guys are all watching for anyway? You just want me to hurt myself, don't you? I mean, I kind of already did. Got a big cut on my finger, but that's minimal compared to what you guys are used to with my track record. Alright, so... Alright, we got the cotter pin out of the castle nut here. And it didn't want to play nice, so I decided not to play nice. It can come out in 2 pieces. That does not bother me one bit. So now we pull this nut out. And then we send it into the danger zone, letting this coil spring do its magic and get sketchy. Alright, I might have to actually put some of those bolts back in now that I'm thinking about it. And also not put my arm in front of the camera. Or maybe not put the camera where the wrench is. But let's see here. Nope. It spins pretty good. I was thinking I might end up spinning the whole joint itself, but that works pretty good. No tension on it, thanks to the floor jack. Okay, and now we'll see if the spring has enough chooch to do the work for us. Or otherwise we're going to put a pry bar right under here and pop that upper control arm off after I wipe the grease off my fingers. Okay, so that should come down and apparently that spring is more sacked out than it looks. Or the ball joint is more seized than you would think. So, just a little bit of prying should be all it takes. There we go. She's under tension. But look at that, perfect ball joint removal. Yeah. Now we just take out the lower one here, and then the spindle comes off, and that spring comes out eventually. Oh, and the shock has to come off. Everything, basically. All right, well, there wasn't much excitement. I got this all apart and gave it 2 taps, and it just kind of fell apart. But, yeah, now we just knock that out. They make ball joint presses, but why use that when you can use the swing press? You know, it's a kinetic press. It's the same deal. They do the same job. And these are pretty stiff with old grease. It's definitely a good idea to replace them, even if we weren't replacing what they mount to. So I think we picked the right time to do stupid hillbilly stuff to this truck. All right, now that we have that all apart, I got some visual aids I can show you why exactly we're doing all of this. So, we got new spindles, and basically this is the center of your wheel. You know, and this is going to stay the same from here to here, but it moves that wheel center just up 2 inches, so obviously you move the wheel goes up, truck goes down. God, if I can get in frame, wheel goes up, truck goes down. So that's 2 inches of our lowering right there. And then we have a 3 inch lowering spring, or a 4-inch spring. What is it? Actually, I think it's 3 inches there and 3 inches here. And that's what gets us our 6 in the front and then 8 in the back. So yeah, obviously a shorter spring isn't as tall, so that means the truck isn't as tall. Pretty simple though. I mean, I got this all apart in like half an hour. We'll see if it all goes back together in a half hour. Spoiler alert, it won't. Yeah, I gotta actually go buy all these rotors and bearings and ball joints yet, so it'll be a tomorrow thing since it's already dinner time tonight. So, yeah, we got it apart at least, and we kind of seen how it all works. We'll just see how it goes back together when I get back to it. All right, so we are back on the C10 service truck, finally. I know it doesn't look like it, but it's actually been a few weeks. It's been long enough that it went from being half-ass spring to full-on winter, and then back to half-ass spring again, so it's been a while. I accumulated more garbage, but that's fine. And I actually already put together this side just so I kind of figured it all out, and then we'll show you how the other side goes back together. But I ended up buying a whole pile of parts. Basically everything we took off is new now, and we're just going to kind of go the reverse order of how we took it apart. We had to get different rotors and bearings because actually these new drop spindles, I didn't read the description well enough the first time, but they take the heavy duty brakes, which this truck didn't have. So we got rotors, we got bigger bearings, we had to get bigger calipers, we had to get different brake pads, all to be able to use that. I got ball joints, I got new tie rods, so there's a lot I did here. We already have the lower ball joints pressed in, so that's one step out of the way. We got to drop the spring into place, and then once the spring is in, we can set the spindle onto that ball joint. Then we can put the upper ball joint in. Then we can work on mounting the wheel bearings and the brakes to that. And then, what else? Yeah, brakes. Then we'll do the shock last. So pretty much everything else is backwards except for we did the shock glass taking it apart, and we're going to do the shock glass putting it back together, just because that shock's going to limit our travel, and we want to be able to move this every which way to get everything attached. So without further ado, we'll get started on all that and get the tripod going. All right, so we got our ball joints mostly installed and kind of finger tight here. And normally I'm not a torque wrench guy, like at all. I mean, I put all that together with the impact, but basically if that fails and falls apart, the truck dies. Whatever, I got spares. If this falls apart while I'm going down the road, I die. I don't have spares of me. So we actually put Loctite on all of these bolts holding this one in, and these we are going to torque to spec, which is, according to the internet, 90 foot-pounds on the bottom one, and then from there you go tighter until you can get the cotter pin in through the hole in the bolt, not to exceed 130 foot-pounds. So between 90 and 130 on the bottom. Then the top is 50, and then tighten until you can get the cotter pin in, and not to go past 90. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to actually torque these for like maybe the third time in my life, actually torque something. And then once these are torqued down and locked in, we'll get that tie rod off. And what I'm going to do to try and get a half-ass alignment put together on this is I'm just going to tape measure center to center on the tie rod ends of this, and then when I put together my new one, which is all still in boxes back there, I'll just make it match that measurement, and that should be close enough that we can roll it around the shop here, and also get it probably on a trailer and to the alignment shop. So that'll be good enough. I mean, you can do it with tape measures and get it actually, a board and actually set your toe and everything properly, but it's just easier to take it to the shop where they have measurement tools to actually get it done right. All right, so tightening up this top ball joint, I ran into a problem I also had on the other side, and that is when you get the castle nut tight, the pinhole is above all the little castle towers. And what you can do there is pretty simple. Just stack a couple washers on it. The torque is what matters, not the actual distance. So, I mean, if you just space that back out and get it torqued down right, it should be just fine. And then you'll be able to get your cotter pin in to the actual notches that it's made for. So, yeah, we'll just... looks like probably just one of these. That's all we'll need. And I'll end up washering that. And I think I had to do one on the tie rod too. But nothing to worry about. Easy fix. All right, so we're working on the tie rods here. And I can tell you one of two things is true. Either these are a lot more simple than people would have you believe, or I am very confidently wrong. But it's pretty hard to mess these up, actually. The inside one and the outside one are different sizes, so you know which one goes where. This is the inner end, and then they are reverse thread of each other, so that all you have to do is, here, let's see if I can't, oh, backwards. All you have to do is turn this collar, and because this one turns this way, and this one turns that way to tighten, that tightens both closer together at the same time. And then once you get that set, you just tighten up these two locking nuts on the clamps, and then you're locked in. I already measured this one out to 16 and a half, so All I gotta do now is a whole lot of cranking, which I won't make you suffer through, but yeah, I mean, this thread won't thread into this side, and this one won't thread into this side, so they actually have the reverse threaded one marked with this little groove here, but yeah, nothing to them really. So we'll just keep cranking and measuring and cranking and measuring, and eventually we'll be at the right length, and then we'll put it on the truck, and hopefully be pretty close to our original alignment. All right, got the tie rod measured out and sort of eyeballed in there, locked in and everything. That's all put together. So now it's time to move on to the rotor and the bearings. So the rotors I got, luckily, or conveniently, already have the races installed, which is nice. But we still got to grease our bearings. And of course, yeah, we'll just get you on the tripod here. Bear with me. Okay. Of course, you can do it the old-fashioned way where you take just a handful of grease and you just absolutely... Give me a second here. Damn it, I'm really never prepared for when I decide to do these little things. But, you know, you get a handful of grease and you mash the bearing full, and that's gross. Despite appearances and the fact that I'm normally covered head to toe in grease, I really don't want to take a handful of grease. I don't like that. So, what you need to do is get you one of these bearing greasers. They're super handy dandy. You just set the bearing onto there, tighten it down, you continue tightening it down until it is tight. There we go, there's a lot of threads there for every different size bearing. And then you just have a grease zerk right at the top there. And all you gotta do is take your electronic grease gun, because it's the 21st century. You just stick it on the end there. And you run out of grease, because of course that's what happens when you go to film something. All right, give me a second. All right, we have the gun reloaded. But basically, you just pull the trigger. And keep pulling the trigger. And this grease is really thick because it's super cold in here. But there you go. You just keep pulling the trigger until your bearing looks like that. Perfectly evenly greased. And if you look, I'll pull the trigger a little bit more, even more grease comes out. So that's the easy way to do it with modern technology, and you have minimal grease on your hands. So that's ready to go into our rotor. We'll pound the seal in, then we'll show you how to set those up. All right, so we got both our bearings greased, and we got the rotor set on here. So now all that's left to do is to torque the hub and get the bearings preloaded, which is pretty easy. You just want to rotate this back and forth. Ow, just pinched my finger on the caliper mount, but just kind of rotate this back and forth while you tighten the nut on the end here. And you just want to go until it's right about there where it gets real hard to turn your rotor. And then from there, you want to go back about an eighth of a turn, or up to about an eighth to a quarter of a turn until you can get your cotter pin in. There's a lot of cotter pins and castle nuts going on here. And I'm not entirely sure where the pin is because of all this excess grease, but grease is good for it. It makes it more slippery. And more slippery is more happy. Oh, look at that. I swear I didn't pre-do that, but we got it first try. So, yeah, let's lock in that cotter pin. And then I can finish putting on the brake caliper and pads and the new brake hose that I got. And I probably won't even film that because it feels like this video is getting pretty long already. But we'll come back when it's time to put the wheels on and set this on the ground. Figure out what our measurement was and how much lower we actually are. Okay, we got the jack stands out from under it. We got the wheels put on. Now it's time for the moment of truth. Let's see, A, if we stuff these tires directly into the fender, because they're way too big for a truck that's this low. And B, get a measurement, see how low we actually go. So, see how cool this turns out or not. Definitely running over something in the back, but that's fine. Look at that! That's below my waist. And that's with it sitting on the tire with the fender. Let's see if we can't just bypass that. Look at that, that is awesome. And the back end's going to come down quite a bit when we put that 400 pounds worth of bed on it. So, I think we accomplished our goal. We're definitely low enough to be hanging with the cool kids now. Let's see just how low we are. So we are 33.5 inches to the center, or from the center of the wheel to the wheel well before. And now sitting on the tire, we are 28 3/4. So we went down about 5 inches, and I know it'll go down probably, I bet another ½ inch or more once that tire is smaller. These are kind of just temporary roller wheels anyway. I plan on going with a bigger wheel and probably a shorter tire, but I haven't really made any decisions on that yet. So this is where it's going to sit for now as far as ride height. Actually, this side's not touching the fender. We'll measure this side. Okay, this spring must not settle quite as much because we're 29 over here, but I'm sure as I drive it around and everything kind of nestles together, that'll come down probably another inch. There we go. Maybe that's all it needed. That did bring it down the 1/4 inch to the 28 3/4, so it matches side to side now, which is good. So maybe that tire's not hanging it up as bad as it seems. But yeah, we got the start of a hot rod. Next time you see this thing, we'll try and get it running. I'll hopefully have a drive shaft built by then, so we can put the drive shaft in, get it running, and then we'll take it and get it all aligned and get all this suspension figured out. But for now, we have a pretty cool looking roller. Oh, yeah, we'll probably put the bed on too next time you see it. So, yeah, this is where we're going to end it for today, but we'll put the bed on, we'll do the drive shaft, and we'll try and get this thing running and driving next video I make with it. I don't know when that'll be, but it'll be coming up. So, thanks for watching. Sometimes you just got to stand back and look at what you built. Should probably do a quick walk around of it. Look at that. I mean, it's not quite Honda low. I mean, it doesn't pass the shoe test on the bumper, but we more than passed the shoe test in the wheel wells. I think that's the requirement for dirt nasty low, is once you can't fit your shoe between your tire and your fender, you're low. And the back's nice and low too. That's all gonna settle out more. Really, just all this should hopefully settle out, and it should sit decently level and low. So, yeah, that's cool.